Get away from him, right now!
Marcus Whitfield slammed the car door and crossed the sidewalk in 4 strides, finger already jabbing toward the boy standing next to his son. Get away from him, he barked, voice loud enough that heads turned across the street. Right now, Eli took a step back on instinct, hands raised slightly, but Marcus kept closing the distance, shouting over him before he could get a word out. You hear me? Stay away from my son. I don't know what game you're playing, but it ends today. A woman walking her dog slowed to stare. A man near the coffee cart lifted his phone, filming. Marcus didn't care. He stood over Eli, chest heaving, his $3,000 coat snapping in the wind like a flag of war. Tyler stood frozen in the lobby doorway, backpack still slung over one shoulder, mouth open but no sound coming out. He just stepped outside to say goodbye to his friend. That was all. Now his father was screaming at Eli like he wanted to flatten him where he stood. Dad, Tyler finally choked out. Dad, stop, he didn't do anything. Get inside, Tyler. Marcus didn't even turn his head. Eli stood his ground, jaw tight, eyes steady. He didn't yell back, didn't flinch the way most 13-year-olds would after being shouted at by a grown man twice his size. He just looked at Marcus with an expression that didn't match a kid getting screamed at on a public sidewalk. Something older, steadier, like he'd already decided this wouldn't be the worst thing that happened to him this month. I wasn't asking him for anything, Eli said quietly. Sure you weren't, Marcus snapped. Kids like you don't hang around kids like him for free. He said it like a fact, like something he'd learned the hard way a long time ago and had never once had reason to unlearn. Marcus Whitfield had built Whitfield Logistics from a single lease truck into a company worth more than some small country's GDPs. He'd done it by trusting almost no one, by assuming the worst until proven otherwise, by treating every stranger near his family as a potential threat until they proved they weren't. It had made him rich. It had also made him, somewhere along the way, a man who screamed at homeless 13-year-olds in front of his own building. Tyler didn't move from the doorway, even after his father ordered him inside twice more. He watched Eli turn and walk away down the block, shoulders hunched, not looking back once. That night, Tyler barely touched his dinner. He's not like that, Tyler said finally, pushing rice around his plate. Eli's never asked me for a single thing. Not money, not food, nothing. Then what does he want? Marcus asked, not looking up from his tablet. Maybe just a friend, Tyler said. Did you ever think of that? Marcus didn't answer. He'd lost his wife 4 years ago, and somewhere in the grief he'd quietly decided that protecting Tyler from disappointment was the only parenting job left that mattered. He couldn't control cancer. He could control who got near his son. But Tyler kept sneaking out anyway. 3 days later, Marcus's driver spotted them together 2 blocks from the office. Tyler laughing at something, actually laughing, in a way Marcus hadn't seen since before the funeral. Marcus was in the car within minutes. This time there was no shouting in the open, not at first. Marcus had his driver pull the SUV right up onto the curb near the lot where Eli stayed, stepped out, and told him flatly, voice low and furious, that if he ever came near Tyler again, he'd call the police and make sure Eli never set foot anywhere near that block. You don't even know what's going on in your own company, Eli said, voice quiet but steady, before turning to walk away on his own, no one needing to force him. Marcus froze for half a second, then shook it off as manipulation. A trick. Something a street kid says to seem smarter than he is, to buy himself 30 more seconds of someone's attention. He told himself that the entire drive home. He told himself that again when Tyler wouldn't speak to him at dinner. You had no right, Tyler said, voice cracking. He's never lied to me once. Not once. And you screamed at him. In front of people. I'm protecting you. From what? Tyler's voice rose raw. From the one person who actually listens to me. Marcus opened his mouth to respond and found nothing there. For the first time in longer than he could admit, his son was looking at him like a stranger. If this story has you gripped already, hit subscribe now, because the next part is where everything Marcus thinks he knows gets turned upside down, and you do not want to miss how this unravels. Marcus told himself he'd done the right thing. He told himself that for 2 more days, right up until the first contract discrepancy landed on his desk, a vendor payment routed through an account he didn't recognize, signed off by someone he trusted completely. He frowned at it, closed the file, told himself it was nothing. It wasn't nothing. And somewhere in the back of his mind, a homeless boy's voice kept replaying, quiet and certain. You don't even know what's going on in your own company. Marcus couldn't sleep that night. He sat in his study with the lights off, the discrepancy report glowing on his tablet screen. And for the first time in years, he felt something close to fear that had nothing to do with losing money. The numbers were small enough to bury, just enough to slip past anyone who wasn't looking too closely. And the names signing off on every one of them belonged to Russell Cobb, his COO, his closest friend since their 20s, the man who'd stood beside him at his wife's funeral and held him up when his knees gave out. Marcus told himself there had to be an explanation. He almost believed it. Almost. He thought about calling Russell directly. Then he thought about Eli's voice again, steady and unafraid, even while being dragged off a curb, and something in his chest twisted tighter. A homeless kid had said those exact words to him 3 days before this report ever crossed his desk. That wasn't a coincidence. That was a warning Marcus had thrown away. If you've ever had to admit you were wrong about someone, drop a comment below and tell us where this story is taking you, because Marcus is about to find out just how wrong he's been. He didn't sleep. By morning, he was in the car, telling his driver to take him to the lot where Eli stayed, not to threaten him this time, but because he had no one else to ask. He found Eli sitting against a chain-link fence, a thin blanket around his shoulders, watching the sun rise like it owed him nothing and he expected nothing back. He looked up when Marcus's shadow fell over him, and for a moment neither of them said anything. "I'm not here to threaten you," Marcus said. His voice didn't sound like his own. "I need to know what you meant." Eli studied him for a long moment, like he was deciding whether Marcus had earned an answer. Then he sighed and started talking. He used to do odd jobs near the loading docks behind Whitfield Logistics, sweeping, carrying boxes, anything for a few dollars before security ran him off for loitering. Weeks ago, hauling crates near the back stairwell, he'd overheard Russell on a phone call, voice pitched low, talking about moving funds before a merger closed, talking about an account no one was supposed to know about. Eli didn't understand the financial details. He understood enough to know it sounded like theft. He tried to tell Tyler the first week they met, hoping Tyler could get the message to his father somehow. But every time he got close enough to try, Marcus showed up and dragged him away before he could finish a sentence. "I kept coming back," Eli said quietly, "because nobody else was going to tell you. And because Tyler was the first person who ever just talked to me. Like I was a person and not a problem somebody needed to clean up." Marcus stood there in silence, the weight of every shove, every threat, every ugly assumption pressing down on him at once. "Why didn't you just walk away?" Marcus asked, voice breaking. "After everything I did to you?" Eli shrugged, like the answer was obvious. "Because somebody had to care enough to stay, even if it wasn't going to be you." Marcus didn't trust his own voice to respond. He simply nodded, turned, and walked back to the car. But this time he wasn't running from Eli. He was running toward what Eli had tried to give him all along. 3 hours later, Marcus sat across from Russell in his office, the discrepancy report between them on the desk like a loaded weapon. Russell's smile faltered the second he saw it. "Marcus, I can explain." "Don't," Marcus said. "A 13-year-old with nothing to his name found this before I did. Found it, and tried to warn me, and I threw him into the street for it. So whatever you're about to say better be better than that." It wasn't. Within the hour, security walked Russell out of the building he'd helped build, 18 years of friendship dissolving into legal paperwork and silence. The justice landed exactly the way Marcus expected it to. Cold, clean, necessary. It didn't feel like enough. This is the moment everything changes. If this story has earned it, smash that like button right now, because what happens next is the real reason this story exists. That evening, Marcus drove back to the lot alone. Eli was exactly where he'd left him, like he had nowhere better to be, because he didn't. "I owe you more than an apology," Marcus said, crouching down to his level for the first time. "And I'm done pretending a sorry fixes what I did to you." He told Eli about a spare room above the garage that had sat empty since his wife passed. He told him about his mother, whom Eli had mentioned once in passing weeks ago, sick, no insurance, no one checking on her. Marcus said he'd already made calls. said there was a clinic, a place to stay, a way out of the cold that didn't depend on anyone's charity running dry. Eli's eyes filled, and for the first time since Marcus had met him, the steadiness cracked. "Why now?" Eli asked. "Because my son saw who you were the first week he met you," Marcus said. "And it took me almost losing everything to finally see it too." Weeks later, Tyler and Eli sat together on the back porch steps, no longer sneaking, no longer hiding, just two boys talking about nothing important while the sun went down. Marcus watched from the kitchen window, and for the first time in 4 years, the ache in his chest felt less like grief and more like something healing. He hadn't just gained back his son's trust. He'd gained a second one he never expected. If this story moved you, subscribe for more because the next one would definitely hit deeper.